As followers of Christ, we are known as Christians around the world, but few Christians know that the believers in the first century were known by other names, as well as being called a sect among the prevalent beliefs of the time. Even though Christianity today clearly differentiates between the Jews and sometimes goes to the extent of having nothing to do with the Jewish people, the first century believers moved about mainly amongst the Jewish people. Not to mention that the majority of the believers were Jewish. They worshipped at the Temple of Jerusalem and attended the synagogue on the Sabbath. In this short study, we will look into the three names which were used to refer to the believers in Christ mentioned in the New Testament writings. Christians. The term Christian between commas is a Greek term. I won't try to pronounce this. That means like the anointed or follower of the anointed. Christ meant the anointed one. Even though this name became the most popular term to refer to the believers between commas, it is only mentioned twice in the New Testament. And this is what I saw myself. Acts 11:26. Christians is mentioned. Acts 26:28. Christian is mentioned, and 1 Peter 4:16. So mentioned three times instead. The way, the name which was widely used for the believers and is most unknown to Christians today would be the title The Way, between commas, probably originating from Christ himself, who called himself the Way. John 14:6. This name was used widely in the book of Acts. The below verses prove that they were known more widely as the Way, between commas, than the Christians, between commas, especially as Paul introduced himself as a follower of the Way to the governor and not as a Christian, between commas. Acts 24:14, even though they were known as Christians by Acts 11:26. Acts 9:2. And he asked him for letters to the synagogues at Damascus, so that if he found any belonging to the Way, men or women, he might bring them bound to Jerusalem. Acts 19:9. But when some became stubborn and continued in unbelief, speaking evil of the Way before the congregation, he withdrew from them and took the disciples with him, reasoning daily in the hall of Tyrannus. Acts 19:23. About that time there arose no little disturbance concerning the Way. Acts 24:14. But I confess to you, that according to the Way, which they call a sect, I worship the God of our fathers, believing everything laid down by the law and written in the prophets. Acts 24:22. But Felix, having a rather accurate knowledge of the Way, put them off, saying, When Lysias the tribune comes down, I will decide your case. The Nazarenes, another name which was used to refer to the early believers, was the Nazarenes, between commas, originating from Yeshua the Nazarene, is as seen in Matthew 22:23. Okay, I repeat this. Another name which was used to refer to the early believers was the Nazarenes, between commas, originating from Yeshua the Nazarene. Between parentheses, Yeshua is Jesus' true name, as seen in Matthew 22:23. Acts 24:5, for we have found this man a plague, one who stirs up riots among all the Jews throughout the world, and is a ringleader of the sect of the Nazarenes. The early believers were also known as a sect. The word sect meant a group of people with somewhat different religious beliefs, typically regarded as heretical from those of a larger group to which they belong. This is reported in Acts 28:22, Acts 24:14, Acts 24:5. Conclusion. The point of this study is not to ask anyone to start calling themselves the Way or the Nazarenes, but to point all Christians, between commas, to see how things were and how they are today. The early church was firmly planted in and amongst Jews, the very people that Messiah came to save, Matthew 15:24, are now discarded by the Christians as strangers. The very body he wanted to unite wants to clearly separate themselves from each other. Judaism is of the Jews and Christianity is for the Gentiles, as outweighed the words of Yeshua, who said, "There shall be one flock," John 10:16, and the words of Paul, who said, "There are no more Jew nor Greek," Galatians 3:28. 2,000 years of separation from the roots of our faith has made Christianity, between commas, into a religion which is far from the way, between commas, which was preached by a Nazarene, between commas. This is a call to start really reading the scriptures with eyes and spirit wide open. We must know where we come from to know where we are headed. And I will put the link in the video description. I knew that it was called the sect. It was called the Way. It was called a sect. And this person have wrote an interesting article about this. Thanks for listening.